Welcome to the presentation on city programs and partnerships for the City of San Jose. My name is Carla Alvarez, and I am a Community Programs Administrator for Equity and Inclusion Services. Joining me here as a co-presenter is Lauren Hancock, who is a Community Programs Administrator for Expanded Learning. And we will also be hearing a little bit from Laura Buzo from Parks and Recreation Neighborhood Services during the course of this presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we will be reviewing the overview of the programs and partnerships in support of K-12 education. If you can hit next, Lauren, please. Perfect. This will be an overview of the city programs and services, and then we will also seek to gather feedback from everyone joining us today on how we might be able to strengthen our pathways for communication and collaboration, as well as identifying ways to continue to deepen student learning and support engagement overall. Next. So for us to really get to know each other better, and we really hope this to be a very interactive and participatory piece, we'll go through a presentation, but we really hope to hear more from you and do a little bit of brainstorming for it. But we will welcome you to fill out this Google form, which I'm going to put in the chat, that you will all probably be able to see shortly. Okay, let me know if you're not able to see that. And Lauren, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can take a look at the results. We're seeing some responses coming in. We have city staff members, but also parent, resident for the city, and Santa Clara County resident. We'll give you a few more seconds.
I'm not able to really do that because of I have to use VoiceOver to listen.
That's okay. It's okay. We can. This is just to get a general sense of who's joining us in the room right now. But if not, we can share it during Q&A. You can just introduce yourself as we speak. That's fine.
Right. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing for a bit. I don't see a lot of activity, so maybe we can come back to that. Oh, Google Doc is not responding. Okay, I'll try that in a bit, and maybe we can keep going with the presentation and see if there was issues with the link. Lauren, can you go back to the presentation?
Yep, on it. There we go.
Great. And so the first program that we'd like to highlight is SJ Access, and that is the initiative of the City of San Jose to provide San Jose residents and students access to all things digital: internet, free Wi-Fi, digital literacy programs, and other opportunities. And as we've been talking about for the last several months, the COVID pandemic has really highlighted the growing inequities and exacerbating the differences in the digital divide. And when we think about digital connectivity, we're looking at access to the internet and adequate computing devices. And so as part of the City of San Jose, and Lauren and I are both also part of the city's Emergency Operations Center leading the digital inclusion branch efforts, we would like to share some of the ways in which the library is proudly supporting, connecting residents and students to this virtual transition. So at the very top, and since August, we've been working on distributing hotspots from AT&T. We will have over 15,000 hotspots. 12,800 will be directed to K-12 students in just a matter of a few weeks. We will have successfully delivered and shared all of those to schools all around San Jose. And then also today, we are very excited because we just launched the circulation for all library patrons. We will have 3,000 hotspots available for anyone who's a patron at the library. And so today is a very busy day, and we're already hearing from many people who are making appointments to pick up their devices. So it is open to anyone over the age of 18 and that has a library card. And if someone doesn't currently have a library card, they can work with our staff to make sure that they receive a hotspot. In addition, some of the other ways in which we're supporting digital connectivity is we also have device kits, laptop and hotspot that patrons can check out as a whole. And that comes also pre-installed with digital literacy curriculum. And we'll also have 30 device kits, iPad and hotspot, which will also be available for a loan program. And that will also be available for general library patrons. And in addition to that, we recognize that many of our patron members may not have had as many opportunities to have access to these tools and devices. So we are also working very hard at doing skills building and knowledge development. So we're providing digital literacy classes as well via live streaming, video recording, and these pre-installed softwares programs that we'll have at these device kits that people will have available so that they can continue to learn and harness the power of technology.
Thank you, Carla.
And now we pass it on to Lauren.
I'm going to share, now that we have our students connected and everyone has a Wi-Fi hotspot and some basic digital literacy skills, I'm going to talk through some of our city programs and services, and we have Laura Buzo joining us from Parks and Rec to talk about some of the Parks and Rec supportive services as well. I'm going to try to make up some time in the air so we have some more time to discuss at the end of our presentation. So we have the student library card. It is with 10 to 15 school districts serving almost 110,000 students in San Jose. Dr. Dewan spoke a little bit earlier about how we have 200,000 students in San Jose, and we hope to make sure that every single one of them has a student library card. This is a picture pre-COVID, actually just a week before in March at one of our schools, Luther Burbank, and they all got student library cards. And we're in the process right now of making sure that all new students throughout all of our participating districts have library cards. You can use these cards to check out the hotspots Carla was talking about earlier. Some teacher supportive programs. We offer virtual class visits at the San Jose Public Library. You can sign up for a visit and a librarian will join your class in multiple languages, share about our website, talk about how to use the library card, e-resources, all of the resources that the library card could get you, like with tutor.com, checking out library books, all of that good stuff. Book bundles, one of my favorite features is like the Stitch Fix for books. You can have the librarian put together books for you, and our librarian will come to your virtual class visit and share all of that information for you. And then also the News Literacy Project. We're partnering with the Knight Foundation to bring together News Literacy Project to our teachers here in San Jose, and that will have a date set for early December. So we're looking at some programs that really support our teachers and their classrooms through this virtual learning. Supporting our students is also really important. So while the virtual class visit supports teachers and students after school, our virtual homework club, Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6, kids can jump in, students can jump in and get help with their homework in all subjects, and 4 days a week. We still are offering coding classes, so you can go to our events page on sjpl.org and find a ton of coding classes, robotics programs of all ages at all levels, and that is all done virtually, and we're still really engaged with making sure that students have virtual opportunities around digital literacy skills and coding. Another program that the city offers specifically for college or high school and college kids is SJ Aspires. So a pilot program that distributed over $25,000 in financial awards to students, expanding this year to over 800 high school students in San Jose, and they can join this program through a school-based partnership. They too complete curriculum, receive financial aid and support to go to college. And now I'd like to welcome Laura Buzo from Parks and Rec to share a little bit about the parks programs. And Laura, if you want me to advance the slide, just say advance.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Laura Buzo, and just want to share with you a partnership that Parks and Rec has with the library, and that we have launched our Rock and Learn program. And this is basically child supervision / distance learning support. It's an opportunity to support our families and children around distance learning. Next slide, please. So a little bit on the program structure and model. So it runs Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we also have an after school component. So we did hear from some parents and caregivers that during the school hours wouldn't work for them, perhaps because they had multiple children and or work limitations. So we decided to offer an after school program. And the nice thing with this is that it offers what we'd like to call a respite for the kids or the parents. It allows the kids to have a safe space for homework assistance and recreational and enrichment activities. So the grades we're focusing on is kindergarten through 8th, focusing right now primarily on children that have or receive free and reduced lunch, as well as children who are unhoused and or foster youth. So we want to make sure that we are targeting our services towards our most vulnerable youth. Registration is currently done on a referral basis with our City of San Jose school districts. Lauren Hancock has been a super liaison working closely with our school districts to identify the student population target groups that we would benefit from the program. We have locations at community centers as well as libraries throughout the City of San Jose. We have scheduled the sessions in 3-week increments, and so we have just finished session 1. We are now into session 2, which started today, and that will be running for 3 weeks. And then our next session would be session 3, and we are taking enrollment for session 3 fairly soon. There is a fee normally through our Parks and Rec school-based programs, but we were able to secure scholarship funds, and as of now, the programs are free of service. Again, because we are targeting the most vulnerable families, so we want to make sure that this does not pose a barrier. Next. So you may not see this very well, but just here's a list of all the community centers and libraries that we have set aside to offer this program. So these are the locations where we're offering the full day and or the after school program. All of the facilities have been inspected. We have made sure that we're following county guidelines and procedures. So all of the tables and chairs, making sure that they're 6 feet apart. We screen all the kids when they come in, making sure, again, that we're decreasing any opportunities for infection and just making sure that our children and staff are safe. Next. So in addition to the Rock and Learn program, we have also just launched our Recreation Preschool program. Again, we heard from families that they were interested in having a safe place, nurturing place to have their little ones. So this program is geared for 3 to 4-year-olds, almost 5. So if they're 4 years, 9 months. Our program runs Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and the hours vary slightly depending on the location. As you can see here, we have 3 sessions. So one session already started on the 14th, and that'll run through December 3rd. And then we have our next session in January. There is a fee for this program, but we again have been able to secure some funding and are offering this at a 7% reduced cost. But we're also in the process of securing CARES funding so that we can make this program completely free. If you see here, you can also see the list of community centers where we are offering the recreation preschool, so Berryessa, Roosevelt, Southside, Emma, Prush Park. In addition to that, we also have a virtual program for our little ones because we know that it may be difficult for parents who may have school-age kids to be able to bring their child to an in-person. And we understand the attention span of children, so we have made this a short program. We're using our SEEDS literacy program, so focusing on literacy skills, language acquisition, those types of skills. We want to make it an enriching and supportive environment. And I believe that's it. Next.
Thank you, Laura. So now we'd like to open it up to the group. Carla will drop, I will drop a Padlet link in the slot, in the chat. Carla will, one of us will. And we want to have you share about what you're doing to support student success. Strategize based on your knowledge and experience. How can we leverage our partnerships and our programs and our work to better support our students? And what suggestions do you have? We love feedback. It is truly a gift. And so if you have any suggestions or ideas or thoughts around that, we would love your suggestions. And then also, as we went through some of the programs, I know that we went through them pretty quickly. What questions came up for you about anything, any wonderings or things like that? And the Padlet from Carla, that'll take you, I will click on it and share my screen so we can see what it looks like. Can you see the Padlet on my screen? And we can take a look at what folks are saying about that. And I will keep our questions up too so that we can still see our questions.
We can see it now. If you can just make it a little bit larger. And for everyone who has not maybe used Padlet before, what you would do to add, it's a bit like a Post-it. So you would click on the plus sign on that document and type in whatever you would like corresponding to that column, whether it's something you'd like to share, information, another program, for example, something to strategize on, something to suggest, or questions that you still have. And so Lauren is sharing, again, the prompts of the questions. And if you are having any technology or writing challenges to participate, you can also say it out loud, or if you're calling in today, you can say it out loud right now, and we can add that to the document as well.
So I typed a question in, and then I have to move my cursor over to allow that card to be there.
Is anyone having difficulties being able to fill it out?
I'm on an iPad and I don't have that feature.
Okay, would you like to share it out loud?
Sure, I put it in the chat, but I will be glad to share it out loud as well. Looking at special education needs for K through 12 and beyond, all students with different disabilities That is a huge challenge when you're looking at how to address the specific needs of the child.
So I would put that under strategize, correct?
Sounds good.
And also, if you hadn't figured it out, if you hit, as soon as you finish typing on your Post-it, you can hit anywhere along the pencils and it will submit it and post it. Thank you for sharing, Christine.
Does anyone have any ideas about how we could increase engagement with city programs so that there's a stronger coordination between the two? Or ideas around the special education challenges? That's come up in our referral work with school districts a fair amount with the Rock and Learn program. I think we're a small enough group that we can take ourselves off mute if we would like to engage in the conversation.
There are also several questions, Lauren, so we can also read through those. There's the easy ones that we can answer. How do I get a student library card if my district doesn't have one?
We're working on it, and a lot of districts are in process. So Oak Grove is one that we get a lot of questions about, and we're working on finishing up the MOU probably this week. And I think it's all right to say that to your district that you want your kids to have student library card. And if not, we do offer 3 other types of library cards. So you can go to our website and get a teen card, an e-card, a virtual card. But we are absolutely trying to get all of the students' cards, and that should be of priority to both our districts and our library.
If anyone is having issues with the Padlet, it appears that it might not work on an iPad as well. So you feel free to also contribute your comments in the chat, and we can also work that way. Or unmute yourself. Someone is suggesting to work or partner up with Project Cornerstone to support youth. If you propose this, can you tell us a little bit more about this project?
Yes, hello. Hi. And that was me. And my name again is Betty Ramirez, and I do work for the city of San Jose. I actually oversee the San Jose Youth Commission. And I know that Project Cornerstone, they are the ones that brought us the 41 developmental assets for thriving youth. And I believe they have a really great, I mean, they have the established organization within the city. However, I know that most of what they do is basically more on the west side of San Jose. They have been trying to get into the east side of San Jose and such with schools and everything else, but it's been a little bit difficult for them. So I think this might be a really good opportunity because they do also have the English learning component, the English learning student component to what they do. And in all reality, what they really do is just get parents involved within their schools, within their students' schools, and really help the parents and support the parents in making sure that they are supporting their child through their educational pathway, right? So I think this is a really good organization. Like I said, you know, they have established in the West Side And what they're doing in the west side could definitely be moved over to the east side as well. At least that's what I think. So yes.
Thank you for sharing, Betty. It's nice
Sure.
to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any ideas or thoughts on how we can increase engagement with our city programs, with our school districts, or better coordinating between the two? Is there something that has been successful on a one-to-one basis, or something that you've seen work really well that you can share with us?
Mhm. So having grown up with a mother who was an educator as well as my brother was an educator, certainly the discussions between educators, uh, the administration plus the actual professionals, the teachers themselves, especially when we're looking at the special ed issue, having their expertise in the roundtable from the ground up would be a tremendous help. I mean, I don't know who is currently the special ed superintendent over at county office, but that would be, I think, my very first stop to start the conversation, and certainly reaching out to the various schools themselves, because as we know, Santa Clara County Office of Education oversees Santa Clara County. However, within that, there are any number of smaller school districts like Burbank, Lutheran Burbank, who are more or less independent. So again, having those experts in on the conversation, even the parents themselves, because again, and the students, because one of the biggest things as an independent living center, we emphasize independence. So that equals being able to speak up, being able to advocate for yourself. There we go. That's why I'm here.
I really appreciate hearing that perspective. I think that it's not something that's come up in my years of working with the School City Collaborative as a focused priority project that we could partner on. So I think that would be great.
I think it needs to happen. I've been on a statewide advocacy AFN call. Really great information. However, not so hot on the special ed part. We need to really work towards that.
It looks like we still have 9 minutes left based on the timer. So feel free to continue contributing or following up with questions.
Yeah. I took my screen share off so we could actually see each other for just a few minutes, because I find this to be a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's, my name's Anne, I'm the chief of staff at the library, and also working on the digital inclusion work through OC operation. Carla and Lauren, I think it's also this conversation about special education and making sure that we are adapting our programs to meet adaptive needs of our student population. You know, it also reminds me of this question of how we get really strong engagement. And often when we start new programming, engagement is our first hurdle, right? It's helping people understand it and then take up the service, which they usually love because it's great, but it's like finding that treasure. And I wonder if there are ways where we can work maybe across systems through the County Office of Education, maybe reaching out to the County of Santa Clara too, to ensure that those that might have different abilities and be enrolled in different programs might have access to our program. Leslie Crowell on the call, and Leslie, maybe this is something that we could follow up on.
One very strong recommendation that I would give to anyone providing this kind of service, whether it's distance learning or what we're doing right now, having full access for the individual participating. So in other words, for example, I was mentioning that I use VoiceOver on my iPad in order to hear what I'm doing because my vision is not that great. For somebody who is deaf, they're going to need ASL interpretation. For somebody who may be hard of hearing but not deaf, they may not know sign language, so you may need captioning. Again, granted, it is a cost. However, if you're being fully inclusive, as we're trying to do, we need to make sure that it is fully inclusive.
Absolutely.
Leslie Crowell from the County of Santa Clara. I was going to follow up on Ann's comment. Actually, I totally agree with Christine on the accessibility. I think it's a challenge because we have our traditional technologies and we kind of stick with them, but we do need to do that extra effort to reach the people that need reaching, if that's our focus. But what I was going to say about the cross collaboration and the ideas for better engagement, you know, people seem to engage better, and I'm speaking from my experience in the county, if they are knowing how they can contribute. So what's the identified focus area that everybody can put a little bit of effort into? Every time that we've been focused on a lot of cross collaboration idea generation, that people are waiting to see what other people think or whatever. And yet we're doing better when we're identifying a, say, proposed desired state. Our proposed desired state about XYZ is this. We're not there yet. How do we get there? And then people can kind of weigh in there. My 2 cents.
A lot more, a lot less yes or no, a lot more in depth.
Christina, I saw you come off mute earlier. Did you have something to say?
Not necessarily speaking on behalf of my office, but I used to work in public education previously to coming to the council member's office. So I think in terms of outreach, you know, one of the things that I used to do was have these kind of one-on-ones with school counselors, because they're normally more in tune with their students and what each student is needs are. And sometimes it's not necessarily the teachers, because they have classrooms of maybe 30 to 40 students, and in high school it's like 6 times that. So usually the school counselors would be the first kind of line of communications with their students. And so I'm not necessarily saying we have to have all these individual meetings, but I would ask the head counselor when they had their meetings and if I can present at, you know, those meetings. And so that was usually helpful in my past. And now with Zoom, I think it's making it a little bit more accessible when we come from the administrator standpoint.
We found that also with our virtual class visits, how accessible it was for the teachers to invite a guest speaker and for us to reach the students and the families in multiple languages with sharing how to use the website and their student library card. And they wouldn't necessarily get that level of technical assistance before, but now, you know, we're right there with them. So the virtual class visits offer a very similar something like that. It's a great suggestion to do that with the counselors. Thank you.
I'm curious about something. When you're providing these sessions for the population, for the different speakers of, you know, Tagalog, Spanish, whatever we're looking at, in Zoom meetings, are you providing specialized, either specialized breakout rooms or separate audio channels that can be dedicated for an interpreter of that language?
That's a great suggestion. We haven't done that so far. It's been Spanish speaking, Vietnamese, Chinese, or English.
Mhm.
Those are great suggestions to do that. We can do that. And our website is very easy to translate. And so we've been showing folks how to, and families how to do that in our virtual class visits. And we see that there are parents or aunts or uncles or adults that are walking by. So they're getting a lot of that information too.
This summer, we also learned and worked now with a vendor to provide ASL interpretation via Zoom upon request. So that was also,
Good.
yeah, it was
Very
meaningful.
good.
It was requested,
Good.
and we were able to work with the vendor now.
Mm-hmm.
We have just about 2 more minutes in our breakout session. Are there any final thoughts or wonderings or ideas around our partnerships with schools or our programs? Any suggestions about our programs in addition to the special education and inclusivity piece of it?
I'd say listen to the parents and the students. They know best.
We try to be as student-centered as possible.
Can I just ask a question? I know there's a lot of other educational nonprofit organizations that work within our schools, and does the city, do we kind of get a list from the school district on what those could be and how we can potentially partner with those nonprofits that work within the school system?
I know we have a list. Is Laura Buzo still here? Laura, does Parks and Rec, do you have a good idea from your partnerships and work at the schools if there's a sort of master list that a lot of this districts can share?
No, we don't have a master list. We have learned just from the school districts that we're partnering with what programs are also supporting their students. So schools like Alum Rock School District and Franklin McKinley and those school districts that we could share with all of you.
I think a lot of that is really relationship based. Like we know that Catholic Charities and Franklin McKinley have a great relationship. We know that Alum Rock and Think Together and Springboard, they have a good relationship. And so I think some of that is assumed, but it would be great to know where those organizations are centered and what their partnerships look like.
Yeah, I know in the past, out of UC Santa Cruz, CalSoap used to have a schools collaborative as well. And a lot of the nonprofit partners used to meet in that setting at least once a month. I don't know if that still happens. This was 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, so we have about 10 seconds left, so we will automatically be shifted over into the main room.